going, Titans? Welcome to a brand new Titans video. Now, this is for my recap of the Titans extended panel at DC FanDome, a part 2, day 2, if you will, because if you don't know already, DC FanDome was split into 2 days. The first one, August 22nd, and the one, as I'm talking right now, there is panels that were released just a few hours ago, and I'm here to give you the new details. Most importantly, I want to know your thoughts on what I'm about to say with the new details down in the comments below. And yes, I know, to the Titans fans who didn't watch my Flash video, I've shaved. Rip the Boba beard. For now. So let's start with Hank and Dawn, because I believe there were some rumors not so long ago about Hank and Dawn, or one of the actors not having as much of a prominent role in the show, and this definitely made things interesting for me in terms of thinking a lot more about that. So as for Hank and Dawn, obviously there was a change in the relationship between them, and Greg Walker, the showrunner, was asked how are they going to function as exes in this new world. That's when they showed the clip of the end of when they split up of last season. Hawk, or Hank should I say, asked what about Hawk and Dove? So Greg Walker says, we answered that question early on definitively. And then as for any job changes that they can talk about, I suppose, well, if they answer that question definitively, does that mean there's going to be any job changes? That's when he says, you may see someone in bike shorts and pull-up sunglasses, and that's all he's got to say. And then they were just memeing about Hank. So does that mean goodbye, Hank? I mean, I know he's got like another show now, and I guess he was going to still be in Titans in a minimal way, so it looks like it is very much so him. Does he just quit the superhero life and he goes to Hawaii and just chills on the beach with some sunglasses? I don't know, but that's what they're making it sound like. We could read into that in quite a few ways, to be honest, but looks like Dawn. I was about to say Dawn and Dove combined, Dwarf. But yes. Dawn is going to be the one to press forward in the Titans. But what about Connor Leslie's Donna Troy? There was quite a bit of I cannot say that word. Ambiguity. Sorry. What can you tell us about Connor Leslie? Greg Walker was asked. As the interviewer went on to say, there's lots of times on the show when somebody is killed and they don't exactly come back for a panel. So it's like we all kind of knew the Troy thing may be happening, and I think this will be their iteration of it. So Greg Walker says, it's true, but there's ways we can skirt some of the normal life and death rules for those of us who are kind of more human bound. So we've got some exciting opportunities and stories ahead for Donna Troy and Rachel and the whole perhaps underworld we may go into, and see what it's like as a transition stage, or at a transition stage. I believe with this Troy Rebirth, and it's kind of like it's something we're all speculating about. It just really depended how they're going to bring it to fruition. That Raven was going to Themyscira to kind of try something. She literally teased, my powers are changing, they're getting stronger, whatever. We saw that with her freaking bringing gargoyles to life. So when Greg Walker says there's some exciting opportunities there for Donna and Rachel and this whole perhaps underworld we may go into and see what it's like as a transition stage, does this mean that with Rachel's weird ass kind of powers that she's going to kind of bring Donna back, but she's not exactly... honestly, I remember, it's all coming back to me now. I've said about this in speculation before. If she comes back, she's not going to be the Donna we kind of knew, and I think it's going to be about her getting back to that point, and she may, as she's got this new established kind of persona, as Greg, I suppose, would say in his own words, which he did say, in this kind of transition stage, maybe she's gonna adopt the name of Troya. I don't know how she's gonna come to that conclusion in terms of this iteration compared to the comics. Donna Troy's history is very convoluted, to say the least, pre-crisis and post-crisis. I've done a whole video on my speculation as to how Troya could come about in season 3. Check it out if you want to, and it's still very relevant, even with all this new context. He said, like, no comment on the Lazarus Pit. I think that was more memeing and joking, to be honest, because I really do feel like this pertains to Rachel. If you watch the DC FanDome panel and they mentioned that, I don't think that's specifically going to be how Donna comes back. Like, if Rachel went off with her, why would they be like, oh, let's grab her and put her in the Lazarus Pit. Go! I feel like it's going to be more the demonic-esque side. That's how, stepping into this underworld, if you will, that's how Donna may come back. And I can't wait to see how that's going to present itself because, as Greg Walker said, it presents opportunities, exciting opportunities for both Rachel and Donna. So Donna, having come back, but not quite herself, interesting. And Rachel, her new powers, allowing her to even be able to do that, but what the repercussions may mean of that, and just even the ability to do that in the first place is something to be reckoned with, something to think about and reflect upon. So I think that's going to be her arc as well, amongst other things that we got teased for Rachel, which I'll go over in just a second. Oh yeah, and one more thing, the interviewer asked, is the way Donna died going to affect how she might live? And Greg Walker said, absolutely. What? What does that mean? I don't know. Like, she went out with lightning. Donna Troy, Thor, confirmed. As for Blackfire, I went over this in my previous video, but there's a bit of emphasis here. They're going to explore a bit more as to, like, why, like, they're a villain, and that's always an interesting question, and why villains are quite often, well, one of my more favorite, things to focus on rather than just a superhero, because sometimes, and the more interesting ones view themselves as heroes, or not necessarily heroes, but doing the right thing. They don't really view themselves as a villain, and I guess the reason why I'm saying that is because, when discussing Blackfire, they went into how the good sister, bad sister relationship will have a microscope on it, and it will reveal a complexity which we didn't actually know about before. As for Red Hood, emphasis in this extended panel, nothing. God damn it. Now, the only reason I'm reacting like that, and I'm not salty about it, I was kind of hoping, and this was my hope for a lot of things, and I do admit for this one, I think the reach was a little bit high, because as for the suit, apparently it has been made already, or at least, decided on. I was hoping, and it makes a lot more sense for Batwoman. Like, I still don't understand why they wouldn't have revealed her suit for season 2. It would have hyped people up. They did give a detail about it, but that was it. So as for the Red Hood suit reveal or concept, I'm not disappointed. We didn't get anything really outside of the announcement, just reiterated again from the panel from back in August. Before we get onto like the tone of this season and because a lot of people have concerns about the show, or it's too edgy, or it took them 2 seasons to become superheroes, we get into that. Revisiting Raven, as teased last season, she said to herself that her powers are changing in that scene to Dick Grayson, getting stronger, which is true, especially if she's going to revive Donna somehow, but she's going to actually pull herself away from the Titans and go on a mission to kind of understand what her worth is in the world. And so many characters struggle with destiny, Greg Walker went on to say, why am I here? Why am I superhero? What am I doing? What is the point of it? So he goes on to really just emphasize that this is a season where a lot of people really have to ask that question, and some of the answers are hard, but ultimately they find important answers that are part of the journey. So I think, naturally Raven's just like, especially with her unique powers, really not necessarily having an identity crisis, but just being like, what am I going to do with myself? And that's actually going to echo, as I just iterated, with a lot of the other characters, but I think it's quite unique for Raven as a character, and this is going to be quite interesting for her compared to even the other characters who are going to go through a similar thing because of just, look at her dad. Look at her. Now, for the tone of season 3. Now, this is very interesting because the interviewer literally did ask about the show having been kind of, the characters beating themselves up for their past sins, obviously referring to the past 2 seasons, and now it's kind of nice to be liberated, Greg Walker says. And, Dove will appoint them in a direction that they should go, but it takes a long time for them to follow her advice. But the big change, as we kind of know already, is that the team is going to Gotham, and that's a whole new set of challenges, considering Gotham is full of Batman's. Well, I don't need to explain Gotham to you, but as we know, Jonathan Crane's Scarecrow will be an issue for them to deal with, and I cannot wait for that. And you definitely know through that description of the tone of this season and what we know from what was teased about Raven and the other characters and how, why am I a superhero? Where do I stand in all of this? And there's going to be some hard answers. You know that the fear toxin is going to make them realize some answers about themselves. And I can't wait to see. I hope that's the case. Scarecrow, you would have thought, would give them a dose of fear toxin, and that's going to help them with their hard and tough answers and questions they need to ask themselves. But the main thing out of what I just said, for me, and probably a lot of fans, is, there's been enough kind of beating themselves up for their past sins. I personally understand, and I'm on board with that story and that development for a lot of characters. Not over it completely, but there's been enough of the beating up for, now they're going to really go on to different ventures. And this is actually something Greg Walker says, with reference to Barbara Gordon coming into the show. Commissioner Barbara Gordon, where it's now there's 2 characters of the second generation, and where you have Batman and Jim Gordon, coming up now is Nightwing and Barbara Gordon dealing with the mistakes of their parents, and it turns out to be a lot more difficult than anybody had thought. But this year, in Greg Walker's own words, this time it's not so much about tearing the team apart, it's about the struggle to stay together and to do something great, to do something greater than the sum of its parts. It's kind of leaning towards optimism and chance, hope, and possibility, which I think was definitely the tone they set off, when the Titans were all kind of walking towards the camera at the end with Nightwing at the front, Crypto running in, Gar. That was definitely the vibe they gave off. So that's not really a mega surprise. That's what fans were left off with the expectation to have. Next season is going to be about something more affirmed as a team. They had that superhero stance, that superhero walk. They're going to Gotham now. It's not about tearing each other or themselves up for the dramas of of that they were warranted, in my opinion. But it took a while. It took 2 seasons to do that and go through that. Now it's about the struggle to kind of stay together, ask the questions of what are we really doing, but finding that purpose by the end of it, while still giving us what we want. Like, don't get me wrong, it's not going to be another thing of, oh, we're only going to find that purpose at the end of season 3. No, they're going to be doing that stuff you want, but they're still going to be having a bit of a, I wouldn't say crisis, but, you know, natural questions you would ask about how does this contribute to this kind of greater thing. And that's what they want to achieve, something great. And I think that probably will be protecting Gotham and overcoming whatever Jason's going to do as Red Hood and other things and other trials and tribulations that the Titans now go through as a superhero crime-fighting force in Titans Season 3. But that was really it, guys, as for like the extended panel of Titans. And it's kind of what I expected outside of hoping for some kind of suit concepts. Other than that, I definitely recommend checking these panels out yourself, because the first massive chunk of it is going over and talking about what the actors think of certain character journeys and what Greg Walker thought of them and stuff like that. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Would love to know your thoughts on what I said about all of these new little tidbit details for Titans Season 3 down in the comments below. You can help me out by clicking like on this video, sharing it on Twitter or something like that. Check out the top pinned comment for links to my Discord server, links to social media, you name it, Patreon. But as always, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoy the kind of coverage and recaps that I'm doing coming out of DC FanDome Part 2. But love you all, guys, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.